Treyarch hid a massive Black Ops conspiracy right under our eyes in the Black Ops 6 ending, and today we're gonna uncover it and find the truth. So, let's get started. Now that the campaign is out and we've chewed through it, it's kind of given us more questions than answers, and for those of you that haven't played the campaign yet, I want to just call out right now, there are going to be spoilers in this video, so beware. Maybe add this video to your watch later or something so you can come back to it once you've finished. But for those of you that have already played it, let's just go over the ending real quick.
The Cold War may be over, but the world is more dangerous than it's ever been. The nature of our enemy is unclear now.
What do you want us to do about it?
What you've always done. Protect us. Harrow may be gone, but not the Pantheon. I need you back in Avalon.
You think you're still a threat?
I do. And worse. Whatever cabal brought Harrow into the Pantheon still lives inside our house. We thought they were long gone. But it turns out, they never left.
Right, so now we've got that out of the way, the opinion of the overwhelming COD community right now is that the man we saw sitting behind the computer at the end of the campaign is indeed Alex Mason. And so we need to address the elephant in the room. Is Alex Mason actually dead? And the answer to that should be simple, right? Because the devs have told us several times that he is dead. Like, they reiterated this so much before the launch of the game. So yeah, he's dead. Or at least he's supposed to be. But if you consider the fact that Call of Duty's marketing and branding for Black Ops 6 has constantly been throwing the truth lies at us, like that quote, over and over again, then maybe it would make sense to question what Treyarch was saying, and just maybe it would make sense to speculate Mason was alive and we are seeing him here at the end of the game, even though the devs are saying that he's dead. But even that is just speculation to begin with, and it's kind of turning into its own Black Ops conspiracy theory that might not even turn out to be true. So who do we believe here and what should we be thinking? And to dive into that, what I'm going to do here is we'll talk a little bit about the community prevailing fan theories other than Mason. It could be Mason, it could not, we'll see. But then we're going to dive into my theory for who it is, which isn't Mason, and it's not any of the usual suspects that you probably think it is, and I'll present my evidence for why that could be the case, because I think I might have uncovered something pretty cool here. To start with, as I'm sure we all know by now, back in Black Ops 2, we had a multiple outcome campaign, and one of those possible outcomes was Frank Woods being tricked by Raul Menendez and killing Alex Mason when they were on a mission in Panama, while they were trying to capture Manuel Noriega. In the mission, Mason and Woods successfully captured Noriega, but were later informed by Hudson that instead of capturing Noriega, they would instead be exchanging him for another prisoner. Then, when Woods, Mason, and Noriega get to the exchange area, Mason goes to a building west of the exchange, and Woods stays by a building to the south of it. And then, when Woods asks who the prisoner is, he's told that it's Raul Menendez, and the prisoner's then brought out with his head bagged, and Woods is told to shoot. Now this is where some of the branching options come in. In one path, Woods shoots the prisoner in the head, and then when he removes the bag to confirm the kill, he realizes the prisoner was actually Mason, not Menendez as he thought. And then Woods tries to shoot Noriega, but he's captured by Menendez, who shoots off his kneecaps, ouch, and knocks him out. And Woods is later awakened to find Alex Mason's dead body, Jason Hudson tied to a chair, and Alex's son David Mason tied to a pole while out in a sort of semi-coma. And Hudson then admits that he was forced to manipulate Woods in order to prevent David from being killed, and he's then killed by Menendez. So it's a bit of a roller coaster. Like, Black Ops 2 is action-packed in that regard, but like I said, that's not the only possible outcome of the mission. For example, you could instead shoot Mason in the body, and he would then later reappear at the end of the Black Ops 2 campaign, alive and well as a 92-year-old man to reunite with Woods and his son David. Now, if this is canon, I'd say the man behind the computer is 100% Mason himself, because the timeline just matches up perfectly for this to be the true series of events that actually played out here in the Black Ops timeline. Because Mason was supposedly killed by Woods in Panama in 1989, and now we're 2 years later, so it fits in perfectly there. And at the end of the Black Ops 2 campaign, which takes place in 2025, Mason reunites with Woods, and Woods asks him where he's been for the last 30 years. So if Alex Mason was in fact not shot by Woods, it's totally possible that he went into hiding because he was the mole inside the CIA working for Pantheon. Now, the problem with this theory is that Treyarch themselves have said that the version of events where Mason is shot in the head there is the canon version of them, and they did this on the COD pod just a couple of weeks ago.
Interestingly, Black Ops 6 comes in the middle of those two things. The entirety of Black Ops 6 is set in 1991, so it's, I think, 3 years after the events in Panama.
Yes, so big moment in Panama for those that know, right? Black Ops 2, and this is where we can say, and we're canonizing, this is where Woods killed Mason. He was tricked into killing his best friend Mason by, Raul Menendez, who kind of set up all this stuff in Panama. Huge moment, right? Woods is then again dealing with that. And so now you're coming to him in a different place. He lost his best friend. He killed by being tricked. He witnessed Hudson sacrifice himself in front of him, right, to save not only him, but David Mason, as well. And then he gets kneecapped, means he will never be able to be the same operator that he was before. We're coming into Black Ops 6, where he's had a few years to try to digest that, but that's a huge change. And now it's really interesting for us to come back to that character.
And on top of Treyarch confirming that there are also notes of evidence you can find in the Black Ops 6 campaign safe house that do seem to confirm that Mason is dead. So if Treyarch's telling us the truth, and Mason's 100% dead, and that is canon, that completely rules out the theory that Mason faked his own death, and he worked for Pantheon as the mole. But there's a whole big problem with this, and that's that in Treyarch's own marketing, they posted a clip showing the scene where Mason is shot by Woods, and they posted it to promote the Black Ops 6 campaign specifically, but they used a clip from the version of events where Mason was shot in the body, not in the head. And so if they wanted to 100% close the door on Mason being dead being canon, then surely they would have just used the shot in the head clip instead. Like, they've opened a whole new can of worms by using clips in the marketing from a branch of the story that they're now trying to say is not canon. It's just weird. So, as with all Black Ops storylines, I think you can't be 100% sure of anything, right? And Alex could really be truly alive. But even if that's not the case, right, and he is dead, that leaves the question, who's behind the computer? And there are several theories who this could be, and some of them are really juicy. So I've seen a lot of you guys say it's Jackson Kane, the leader of the Crimson One faction in multiplayer, and this could be true, and maybe this is how COD are planning to set up the seasonal story for Black Ops 6, but I don't think this is the case. Another theory is that the guy behind the computer is actually Case, and that's the character we play as during the Black Ops 6 campaign, and that would fit with the whole truth lies thing, I suppose, as well, because we were playing as the bad guy the whole time. But after a lot of research on this on my front, I think that the man behind the computer might actually be Ryan Jackson. Now, I know some of you guys are thinking, Milo, who the hell's Ryan Jackson? I mean, where did you pull that name out of? And despite the name sounding kind of similar to Jack Ryan, the CIA analyst from the Tom Clancy novels, which was an intentional reference made by COD, by the way, Ryan Jackson is actually a real character in the Black Ops series, and the reason you probably don't remember him is because we've actually never seen him. You see, Jackson was a CIA analyst during the events of Black Ops 1, but the only evidence we had of his existence back then was his name being seen on CIA intelligence reports for the likes of Operation 40 and even Project Nova. So it's safe to say he was heavily involved with those operations, despite never being seen or heard. Now, it wasn't until the release of Black Ops Declassified that we got to hear Ryan Jackson speak for the first time.
Special Agent Ryan Jackson, Office of the Inspector General, case number 290184, January 8, 1990. I've spent the better part of my career at the agency studying the lives of these men. First under former AD/SAD Richard Kane, and again, now with OIG. Mason, Woods, Hudson, Dragovich, Nova, Kennedy, Angola, Nicaragua, and now, thanks to recent events in Panama, the Senate subcommittee wants answers.
I'm sure a lot of you didn't even know that Black Ops Declassified was a game, and that's because it was a PS Vita exclusive, and I'm highly aware that many of you are too young to know what a PS Vita even is, but hey, there's some old people making this video here who you're gonna make really sad if you leave a comment about that, so definitely don't do that, guys. Now, the weird thing about Black Ops Declassified is that it's not the first game that COD has made that isn't considered part of the main franchise. Like, there are others that are also in that category, but interestingly, Black Ops Declassified is a direct continuation of the Black Ops series, and each cutscene in the campaign is narrated by our boy Ryan Jackson. And here's where things get really interesting. In 1978, he requested to be assigned to a temporary field status for an operation called Operation Charybdis, which was a mission to eliminate Alex Mason, as well as Jason Hudson and Gregory Weaver. Now, as you can see by the document on the screen here, he can be seen saying that there is no other alternative but to cleanse the situation due to the unreliability of the mental state of former operative Alex Mason. And it went on to say that Alex Mason, Hudson, and Weaver were clear and present threats to national security. Now, my assumption is that this whole operation was dissolved, as obviously we see Hudson and Mason still alive in Black Ops 2 many years after all this was supposed to take place. But despite this, Jackson continued to monitor the activities of Mason, Hudson, and Woods until 1989, after the events in Panama, which resulted in the deaths of Mason and Hudson. And Black Ops Declassified then took place in 1990, with Ryan Jackson narrating the cutscenes, and in the first cutscene we saw earlier, Jackson had this to say.
And now, thanks to recent events in Panama, the Senate subcommittee wants answers.
Now, it might just be me, but that sounds like a man who's a bit stressed about his job, right? It's well known that Raul Menendez had moles within the CIA, and that's how we got intel on Mason, Hudson, and Woods coming to Panama to capture Noriega in the first place, and that enabled him to capture Hudson and Alex Mason's son David, and force Hudson to manipulate Woods into killing Mason. So we know those moles are out there, and at the end of Black Ops Declassified, this is what Ryan Jackson had to say.
Special Agent Ryan Jackson, OIG Investigators Log, case number 290184, January 12th, 1990. On orders from DCI Stansfield Turner, the inquiry into the career histories of Alex Mason, Frank Woods, and Jason Hudson is hereby suspended. All materials associated with said investigation are to be classified top secret and returned directly to the office of the DCI. Case closed.
So all of this leads us nicely into the events of Black Ops 6 1 year later in 1991, where someone in the CIA is trying to frame the deaths of Mason and Hudson onto Adler, and now we're hunting for an unknown mole in the CIA. And I don't know about you guys, but the timelines seem to be lining up really nicely here. And what better a time to bring up a character that's been lurking in the shadows since Black Ops 1 than now when we're trying to return to Black Ops form and make a campaign that really feels like the good old days. So what do you think, guys? Is it Jackson Kane? Is it Case? Or is it maybe Ryan Jackson? Or do you think that Alex Mason might be alive after all? Whatever you think, I've got some even crazier Black Ops 6 campaign videos linked on the screen right now, so you can dig even further into the storyline lore. Enjoy.